Greetings, everybody. How are you, beautiful people out there? Today I was driving around, trying to take bad videos out of the car window, looking at all of our new little North Korea poofy things going up. 100 million here, 300 million there, and thought about this funny job I had in New York. Every other job was way up high in, some perch somewhere. Sullivan and Cromwell overlooked the Statue of Liberty, and there was, oh my goodness, what was the name of the one in the Lipstick Building? It wasn't Robinson Silverman. It's the one I always forget, and the only one I actually did the whole permanent thing at. So it's funny, and they had this place that looked like a ship inside from the 1930s after moving from this place on Central Park where they had a balcony, really a terrace, where you sat and outside in the sun. It was rather marvelous. But there was this treacherous place, and I learned one day, and I'd been there for years before learning this, that there are some buildings there that go way down just like they go way up. And I actually worked at this place. It was this really weird law firm where all the attorneys were way on the top floor on Park Avenue, but we were all on level B. There was an elevator that went down, and it went down to many letters in the alphabet. And it was really scary down there. It was like being in a bunker, and you could feel shaking. But the people were wonderful, so I did stay there for a couple of years. We'd run up into the light whenever we could get on that elevator. And Lokesh would say sometimes, we would play games about what will it be like in the future here. And I know that sometimes he would look at these big buildings and say they'll all be noodle factories. China will take it over. Or everyone will be a prisoner and there will be chain gangs, just, tearing these buildings down. All the workers will be like a chain gang in Bama or something. A Cool Hand Luke sort of future. Will it be dystopian somehow? Will it be in an ice age somehow? And when will we throw off these sort of daycare babies that are running the show? I went to Evergreen in the 80s. And in the 80s, Evergreen was basically just undergrad. And I'm not proud of it. I'm really sad about it. And it was because my grandmother was sick. And I came out and I went there to be near her. I had no idea what I was getting into. I'd gone to Friends World College in New York before that and transferred out. That being said, there were only 2 degrees given that were beyond the 4-year degree at the college, and that was a degree in teaching, public education, and a degree in public administration. Mind you, this was the early to kind of mid-80s. Well, I realized what a horror show the school was, and I cut out pretty fast, and I moved to New York and did get a job on Wall Street, but I would fly back every few months to just keep the credits going. I did not have this sort of wherewithal to transfer again, even though everyone was saying just transfer, go to Columbia or something. But I was working at that point around the clock on Wall Street. The mergers and the acquisitions were popping. And that was where I was. And there were other rather extenuating factors too. So I thought I'll just get this degree like it's, the bazooka in the mail diploma. So in the meantime, the people who were graduating from the college, the ones who were more of the brainiacs, which we're not seeing now. Now we're just sort of, it's like a daycare millennial sort of place there, and it basically always was, but there had been this kind of sort of kind of little wacky side element that had been, kind of there a bit, and like some kind of interesting computer people, some interesting people with environmental things. I remember seeing one of them during Katrina who was, rescuing dolphins, or, during things like the BP spill, and some other, notable people like Matt Groening had gone to Evergreen, our wonderful cartoonist, although I don't remember him saying anything. I don't know. It would be interesting to hear what he had to say. So Microsoft, woo, Seattle was taking off, right? And then after that, of course, this was sort of pre-Nirvana, but then after that, there was the music boom, sort of the 90s. So there was this golden period, and I did live in Seattle for this sort of brief period, and it was rather charmed. It was up on Capitol Hill, and there was a view of, the ferries coming and going from the islands, and wooden floors, and it was rather magnificent. Now it's rather trashy there. It's, I sort of don't like to even go there because I just sort of think of what was, and I don't want to be like that. I want to be more in the here and now and the present, but it's difficult when you see this just sort of bad taste kind of override something that was blissful once, and you're expecting bliss, and you're receiving pain, great pain. So so what is going to be the future here of these places, right, that we see above us here? And it's funny, I was thinking about New York again, and just how once again, how interesting it is that the capital was in Albany, how industry, just didn't want any of these people around. Oh, okay, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So Microsoft was booming. So anyone who was just like, intelligent, or just even curious about life, or, wanting to get out there, the opportunity was booming. And I remember living in Seattle for this brief period of time, and I don't know, I got some kind of credit for studying with the Tibetans or something like that. The Tibetans had some old frat house up on Frat Row, of all things. And so I was going there, and there were people I knew there was one person, his name was, there was a man here who ran for office named Don Bonkers, and this guy's name was Bob Donker, and I always wanted the two to meet, right, and to see what would happen to the universe. And Don Bonker got a job with Nintendo, and he was creating games for children who were disabled, that they could, just move their head if they didn't have arms and things like this, and be able to play games, So he was, making his fortune there, and, everybody was sort of seeking their fortune, as it were, and going interesting places and doing interesting things. And the joke at the college was that people who were mediocre, had no creativity, had zero going for them. This is Seattle in the 80s, 90s. You can do anything musically. You can, be at Microsoft. There are so many Microsoft millionaires I know. Even people who didn't even work, they just saved money and bought stock, like the Aloha lady. And so anyway, the most unimaginative people who just kind of wanted to keep getting student loan money from the Evergreen State College and just kind of stay and had this degree of mediocrity went into public administration or school teaching. So it's really sad that we now have really the product of basically the second-rate mind at the second-rate college, that then took over really in a parasitical way, like a disease, like a disease. And it was horrifying to come back to. I never, I just remember in the back of my mind, people who would sit around sometimes and laugh about who was going to go into public admin, and then coming back here, 20 years later, and, seeing, the island of Dr. Moreau, basically. This, hybrid, the monster that came to be. And so that is what we are now living with. And, the term drain the swamp, there is this swamp creature-ness here in this place and in this world. And I thank all of you so much for watching. One does appreciate those in this world. And thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.